The U.S. government is putting kids in jail for this?
If you didn't already know, there is this crazy trend happening with teens right now who are using AI to create sexual deep fakes of their friends.
Yikes.
And now the law is changing so that kids can actually be prosecuted for it.
But the reason these laws exist, we would argue, reveals something much deeper and darker about humanity and the tech world that we all live in today.
So let's dive into this reel that popped onto my feed and immediately caught my attention. Jackson White is a criminal defense attorney in Arizona, and he's warning teens and parents about new legal consequences of creating and sharing AI deepfakes of minors. Check it out.
You are a teenager or have teenagers for children, you need to listen up. Something that is happening rampant in Arizona specifically, based on my knowledge and expertise, is teenagers are taking people that they know, their faces, and putting them on inappropriate images, bodies of other people, and then distributing them. If you are a teenager or you have teenagers that are participating in this, you need to be made aware that Arizona is changing the legislation to make this now as if that is distributing inappropriate or illegal content. I can't say.
So that's interesting. He says like as if it's distributing like inappropriate or illegal content. I feel like that is the distribution of, maybe that's like
It legit is.
legal jargon thing, like as an attorney that but I feel like it is what it is. You know? But it's literally exactly the same thing that we tell students that we've been talking about for the last 15 years in the normalization of like passing and sending nudes when you're under 18. Like by definition, that's child porn. Like that's the distribution, that's the creation and distribution of child porn. And so it sounds like the law is just like, well, yeah, if you're doing that with AI, it's literally the same thing. Like, yeah, he continues though.
Those words on TikTok because I will be banned, but it is inappropriate content involving minors, even if the minor's face is attached to a body that is not of that person. I know that this is wild for many parents.
So even if it's fake, even if like the full thing outside of the face isn't real, like this is now considered illegal content that kids are making of other kids.
Dang.
It is not wild for your teenagers. Using AI, using filters, using these apps to manipulate photos is happening a lot. The police...
So parents and adults oftentimes don't think about these kind of ramifications of the normalization of filters and things like that. But like this has been happening. Like we actually did an incident intervention at a school where stuff like this was happening, where it was 8th graders, it was middle school kids, and they were actually like leaking each other's nudes unconsensually. Law enforcement had to get involved. Like a kid was expelled, another, like the victim in the situation, like
had to change schools.
And so then it's like the same with the AI deepfakes. That school too had an issue with the AI deepfakes as well. And so this is, unfortunately, it's not just that like as parents, you have to protect your kids from like predators, but you have to protect your kids from other kids that might be wanting to harm them. And then as like students, like we have to think through what are the consequences of our actions. Like this is how we're treating other people. Like we live in a tech world, but that doesn't mean that everything technology wise is like okay or permissible. Like how do we want to be treated? How do we want to treat other people as well? And just because it's common doesn't make it normal. That's a huge one.
That's a banger right there.
Are doing raids all over Arizona, confiscating phones and finding people who are distributing these photos.
What?
So
they're doing
the police
raids?
are doing raids. I haven't heard of
Dang,
that.
you best delete those pics off your phone right now if you're listening. Holy cow.
Oh man. So they're really going, if this is true, this is what he's hearing as a lawyer. So if this is true, they're like taking this which it's serious stuff,
Yeah,
consequences are real.
Many times it's of their friends at school and they put it on an inappropriate image of somebody else. And then they distribute it to their friends on the football team or on the dance squad or whatever it may be.
Actually, this happened in my high school. This was before I understood trafficking and nudes and the legal consequences of it. But I remember sitting like in science class, and there was like a student that I had gone to school with since like 4th grade, 5th grade. And he was like a good student, super smart, was on the baseball team, I believe. And he was talking about how team members had actually taken a picture or a video of another female athlete as she was like showering or like changing in like the changing rooms, and then was passing that around the baseball team. And I remember just sitting there and I'm like, if I had known better, I would have said something about it. Cause like, this is something that she didn't consent to. That was her image being passed around in a way that like she had never said okay to. It was sneaked. Like, that's really, really bad. And so this AI stuff is the same exact thing, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
It cannot happen. It will be treated as if you are taking an inappropriate image of a minor and distributing it. If you are a teenager or a parent of teenagers.
Yo, that's like the creation and distribution of child porn and child SA material. Like I know in the state of Arizona, for every one image someone has of
child porn,
that material, it can be up to a minimum of 10 years in prison per an image.
Yep.
And I know when we tell students that in the classroom, sometimes their faces are just like, oh my God.
They're like, oh no, I'm going for years.
I'm going to have a lifetime sentence. And so,
And some of them have said that in like it's like, oh man, you're saying that in a joking way. That's like really sad, right? Like you don't really understand the severity of it, but there is like a reality to that as well. Like there was even like another school that we were at, and there was a freshman. He was taking pictures of himself and passing it around. So it's not like it was like sneaked and like got unconsensually like these images that were leaked. Like he was taking his own pictures and passing it around. And he kept getting in trouble for it over and over again. Law enforcement got involved. And they said, you need to stop this. And they were actually going to bring charges against the parents because the parents knew about the decisions that the student was making and didn't think that they were doing enough to stop the student.
Dang, y'all, parents, we got to keep these kids from wilding out there. That's like a public indecent exposure,
yes,
but
that's
online.
Exactly what it is. That's exactly what
like,
it is. No, for sure. But it was a really interesting situation. And that was almost 10 years ago. I think I heard about that situation at one of the schools that we were working with. And so now like the laws and the legal system are having to accommodate these deep fakes as well. And the comments on this video were just really sad because oftentimes this feels like really extreme stuff, but like just like a couple comments down, this person's like, this happened to my daughter by another girl in her daughter's school.
Man, it gets vicious.
Posted him on Snapchat. We had to go down to the school and to that parent's house. The little girl apologized to my daughter. She said little girl. So I'm interested to know the age of this girl. Like, is that 5th, 6th grade, but earlier than that? Or are we talking like middle school, high school? Little girl apologized to my daughter and deleted the part. She also got suspended. And then just a couple comments down, it's unfortunate, but someone did this to my daughter and told her that they were going to post it on every social media platform if she didn't pay them money or to delete it. So that's extortion. That's something that's happening rampantly. This can happen to like guys and girls, but since like 2020, it's actually been, I think it's 91% of all victims of sextortion are boys.
Yeah, and like teen boys. And it's someone posing as like a girlfriend type person of like, oh, I'll send you nudes if you send me nudes. And we know, what is it? 1 in 5 teens have experienced sextortion, which is astronomical. So many.
Absolutely. And so it's such a sad thing that's happening to our teens. Like this is, and everyone's like thanking him for like talking about it because we're seeing like the real live consequences of this. And so if you or someone you know has had your nudes or AI deep fakes made without your consent or leaked without your consent, stick around to the end because we actually have a resource that can actually go out and scour the internet and remove these images from the internet, which is absolutely amazing.
And so, before we get there, AI is now entering the chat in this way, and it makes the fight against child porn and child SA material way more difficult. And so we're going to pull up a video of powerhouse lawyer Danny Pinter. We've had her on before, and she specializes in these kinds of cases. And so in this clip from the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, she explains how these AI deepfakes are actually going to crush law enforcement's ability to protect children from sexual exploitation. Let's check it out.
Is only going to increase more and more. And I mean, I can't help but think it's going to overwhelm law enforcement and confuse efforts to crack down on CSAM. And I mean, this is CSAM. Even I would argue, if it's really sexually explicit of depicting a child, even if it's AI generated, I mean, that's still CSAM under law.
And so that's Danny. She's a lawyer. She like knows the law. She's saying this isn't as if, this is CSAM. This is child porn.
So that's criminal. And you just imagine how quickly that's consumed by society. It explodes. Probably those creating it feel less sense of danger than normal perpetrators of CSAM.
Oh, yeah. So people that are making AI deepfakes feel like that it's less risky because it's not a real person.
Which then they're going to be prompted to engage in that behavior way more because there's not as much of that risk.
Of a consequence for it,
yeah.
Crimes. So now I just imagine, I think about, like we talked about before, desensitization. I mean, if you have this explosion of child pornography that's AI created, and is that going to just desensitize the masses? Is that going to overwhelm law enforcement? Is that going to create almost a sense of complacency for, sexualization of children? I think that's really concerning.
Yeah.
That's on a societal level she's talking to. That's not like an individual perp. Like that is something that she's seeing having like societal consequences across the board. And so that's really fascinating.
And that's like, what was that thing with minor attracted persons a couple years back? Yeah, that's like so disgusting. And it's like, logically, we can't allow things like this to happen to lead to a place to where minors are interacting sexually with kids.
Yes.
Like,
well, and we even talked about a video where like a network, like peer-to-peer networks of those that engage in CSAM or like child porn material, like passing it around. A lot of people are like, oh, well, if you create like the AI deepfakes, then it's going to prevent them from going and physically acting out on kids. They're going to get like satisfied in a different way.
Yeah, they don't have to hurt kids because they have an outlet now.
Yeah, but the stat is up to what, 83% or 85% of them are actually real life offenders. And so the imagery isn't preventing them from actually abusing kids. And that's exactly what Danny is talking about here. And
I think I would argue that it actually incites more victims, because the way addiction works, and we would argue that people that are pursuing this like are in some shape of addiction with pornography, and it just progresses, and eventually whatever AI deepfake isn't going to be enough, and so that next hit of dopamine, it needs to have more novelty and more risk associated with it, which eventually unfortunately leads into hurting people.
Absolutely. But so all of this really reveals something way darker about humanity. And it's the part of the conversation no one really wants to talk about. But before we get into all of that, you're never going to believe that some people are actually saying that these AI deepfakes are no big deal, because it's not like the people in the deepfakes are actually being like essayed, because it's not actually them. But Danny actually has a clapback to this, and it is rooted in the fact that this isn't a hypothetical clapback. This is rooted in people that she's actually worked with and her experience in this industry throughout the years.
I think people don't want to wrestle with is, they just think, the image out there is embarrassing. It's like, no, people are sexually gratifying themselves to these images. And the person who's depicted knows that. They know that they are now being used by other people against their will, that they're being looked at a certain way, that they have.
And that's like so gross. Like that's a gross feeling. Like women automatically feel gross when they see someone kind of like, you can tell if someone's checking you out and it's like in a gross way, it's not like in a flattering, like, oh my gosh, like they think I'm attractive, but it's like, that's gross. I don't want you looking at me like that.
Why is this grandpa looking at me this way?
But this is like the same thing. It's just like online, it's digital instead of like in person when you're like walking by someone or something like that.
Yeah.
Control over. And that is really, really disturbing and traumatizing, causes a lot of identity issues and trust issues. And on top of that, there's no escaping the harassment element of this. Like once, these images are created to harass, and then they cause harassment. People who consume these images often become obsessed, become stalkers, try to find you. Whole communities and fan clubs have been built around CSAM images. Like
that's something to think about too. Like we're not even just talking about someone's like personal issues or personal desires, like that they're trying to like express in a certain way. Like, no, they're harming other people. Like this is something that is like not normal. It's not natural. It's like an escalation of deviant behavior, like on the consumer side of things, right? And so there are negative consequences to the victim, the person whose images is being messed with by the consumer side of it. It's not just the victim. Well, part of it is they're victimized by the consumer side.
Yeah.
Literal fan clubs of series of CSAM images, as disturbing as that is. And I have to think that's probably the same even with adult abuse content. Like these perpetrators create communities around this. And that can be life-threatening at the worst end of the spectrum. And at the lowest end of the spectrum, it leads to tons of harassment. So there's a lot of real world harms that come from this.
That's so true and so sad. Like they even go on in this like conversation to talk about how our image is our digital identity. And so like our face, like how we look is actually our digital identity online. And people can't just like go and just like take a company logo, the like image of the company and advertise with that logo like however we want. We all know like copyright laws. We all know how that works. And yet in this situation, people kind of get confused. It's like, well, if we can't do that with a company, why should we be able to take someone else's actual image and create something that's not true about them without their consent? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if it's not okay for businesses, why should it be okay for humans?
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's such a good point. And yeah, I think we can like continue talking about the legal and ethical dynamics that are wrapped up in all of this. But the stage was set years ago for all of this and the normalization of passing around and sending nudes.
Absolutely.
And in 2026, that no longer feels like a big deal. But again, like we're
The passing
talking
and
about,
sending nudes no longer feels like a big deal.
right.
Yep.
But again, we would argue that that's rooted in something pretty dark, which is actually the objectification of human beings.
And actually, for the last 15 years at Red Light Rebellion, we've been teaching students in schools about how this is not necessarily like a religious or moral statement to talk about the harmful effects of like passing and sending nudes. Because when someone is actually looking at a pornographic image of a human being, whether it is a real image or a deep fake, the part of the brain that processes images like that hypersexualized content, is the part of the brain that processes objects.
Yeah, and guys, this is just the neuroscience. Like this
Yes.
isn't religion. Like
Nope.
this is objectification.
On a
And
scientific level.
yeah,
Like,
but and you may be thinking even too, like, but why is that a big deal? The objectification part. It's because when we objectify other human beings, it's that much easier to harm them. We learned that in World War II, how all that went down. And so
propaganda.
unless with propaganda, and so unless you're a psychopath, that's a problem.
But at Red Light Rebellion, we believe that every human has inherent value. And for us, that goes beyond simply like a societal moral framework. We believe that humans are the image of God. That makes us intrinsically valuable. Like we all deserve to be treated a certain way, and a way that is above and beyond any other object or animal or even like other living thing.
Yeah. And so, like you're saying, like that's a moral and also religious argument that all the Western world agrees on. But proof of the fact is that the United Nations has actually outlined 30 human rights that every single one of us deserves simply because we're humans that exist. And again, that all came to fruition after the events of World War II with objectifying coming to its pinnacle of
genocide.
Horrific genocide.
Yeah. And so objectifying other people like with AI deepfakes and with nudes is so concerning because the harm is real. And it's real because it's a violation of our inherent value. And so if you're a student and you or someone you know has been violated digitally, please go to takeitdown.nicmic.org. This website actually helps remove and take down nudes of you before you were 18 from the internet. And so there is hope, there's healing here. You are not what happens to you, which is the whole point of inherent value. But this is really great. So if you have had nudes, partial nudes, or sexually explicit photos, videos taken of you before you were 18, this website, literally, you can make a report on it and it will go and scour the internet looking for those images and removing them. And then what's neat is there is another website. So if you experience this after 18, there's this website that can help you do the same exact thing.
And if you're a parent, make sure to check out this video on AI deepfakes. It reveals where 50% of the deepfakes are actually coming from, and you'll never believe it.